The Rangers' injured All-Stars are looking more like themselves. The Rangers actually got a save from their bullpen. We're going to talk about all that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a criminally addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 10 seasons, including 5 as the host and founder of the Locked On Rangers podcast. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on that YouTube button and comment nearly any single thing below. Today is Wednesday, September 20th. Your Rangers are 83-68, holding that third wildcard spot, while just half a game back of those stinking Houston Astros who keep on losing in the AL West. Before we get into today's show, this episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's Jase medical.com. Now, yesterday the Rangers, they got their big bats back in the lineup, or I guess I should say Monday. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, doing the math there is always difficult in my head. But the Rangers got Josh Jung and Adolis Garcia back, and that really amounted to not a whole lot. In the first game that those two were back, they made some decent defensive plays, and they had some okay at-bats. Josh Jung hit some balls hard, but it looked like Adolis Garcia was still pushing, still looking like he had before he got injured as a guy who was expanding the zone, going back to some of the bad habits that he had last year and in years prior. But in this game, these 3 guys just had some of the best at-bats, some of the most impactful at-bats that the Rangers had all night long in a huge 6-4 win. And the Rangers needed every single bit of those 6 runs. They needed every single bit of their all-stars in their lineup. Of Adolis Garcia with his solo home run, has a career high 101 RBIs. It's kind of wild. It felt like he would have had more. The last RBI that he had was that walk-off home run, which feels kind of nuts that that's the last one that he had before this one, but that's kind of where this team is at this point. Adolis Garcia had his 35th home run of the season, which is a career high. They also got a pair of doubles from Jonah Heim and a big RBI single from Josh Jung and some great defense from Josh Jung. I mean, Josh Jung, just take a freaking bow. This kid is incredible. This guy was just very unheralded, and honestly, rightly so for his defense at third base. It was nothing spectacular. I've watched this guy play defense a lot. I watched him a lot in college. I watched him play shortstop because Texas Tech didn't have any other shortstops, and he was serviceable there as a college shortstop. But when you've got like a 18 billion OPS, then you can play pretty much anywhere if you're passable there, because you're just going to hit enough to make up for it. But his defense was not going to be his carrying tool. And at this point, like, it just about might be. I mean, the Rangers fans have been so spoiled, myself included, with phenomenal third base defense for such a long time with Adrian Beltre. Like, we were just so incredibly spoiled by it. And the fact that they went from that to one incredible year of Isaiah Kiner-Falefa defense at third base. Now, I know the rest of the things with IKF, but his defense that year in 2020, he won a Gold Glove. He won a Platinum Glove. Like, he was just absolutely phenomenal. And then since then, it's been a big old bucket of mid. I'm glad there's been some separators between Adrian Beltre and the next cornerstone third baseman for the Rangers. I mean, for a while, I thought it was going to be Joey Gallo, but then he moved to the outfield, and that ended up being the move for him. I mean, we thought it was going to be Josh Jung for a while, but I mean, there was the reason why the Rangers had a big bag of mid at third base for the last couple of years. It's because Josh Jung was going to be up for the last couple of years, but just random injuries have sidetracked him time and time again, unfortunately. But I mean, now when he is back and healthy in this lineup, I mean, he is just such an impact with his glove and with his bat. Getting an RBI single, the first pitch from a right-handed reliever coming in, I thought, it's such a bummer because Josh Jung is so incredibly good against left-handed pitching, and the Red Sox brought in a lefty to face 3 batters, hit Marcus Semien with a pitch, which is a really scary moment. I think he ended up staying in the game. I think he's okay. Got him on the elbow, just off that elbow guard, which Just really, really terrifying moment. The Rangers have 6 injured All-Stars this year. I think I'm going to scream and pull my hair out and, I don't know, set something on fire, maybe a trash can or a piece of paper, something small. I don't know. No big arson, but at least a little bit of arson. If the Rangers have 6 injured All-Stars, if the Iron Man of Marcus Semien gets hurt on a stupid hit by pitch in this game. But Josh Jung did not wait. He saw a first pitch fastball that he liked, drove it right up the middle. Just a great piece of hitting from a very well-disciplined hitter. He did have 3 strikeouts in this game. Not the best at-bats in general, but when it counted in the big moments, he came through for this Rangers team, as did pretty much everybody in this lineup. This was such a team lineup win, and including Adolis Garcia, who had a phenomenal 10-pitch walk, the at-bat, or I guess plate appearance, technically, of the night, because it immediately was preceded by a Jonah Heim RBI double, and then an RBI single from Leo Taveras, who rallied after going down 0-2 in a count. I mean, Leo Taveras reached base 3 times in this one, a couple of walks, and that RBI single. Like, just absolutely massive. 8 walks for the Rangers in this game. 8 walks, 7 hits, 6 runs scored, and 3 for 10 with runners in scoring position. They did leave 10 on base, including stranding the bases loaded, but still, the Rangers did what they needed to do. They rallied even though they were behind. They were down 3-1 after a shaky 3rd inning from Nathan Eovaldi, which a slightly better play by Josh Jung. I know it raved about his defense, but a slightly better play on a very tough ball, honestly. Could have gotten them out of the inning unscathed, but Nathan Eovaldi was not able to work out of that trouble. But again, this lineup picking each other up and picking up the bullpen, who the Rangers honestly did not help with their defense. An error by Corey Seager on what could have been a double play, or at least should have been 1 out. A kind of rough way for Corey Seager these last 4 games. He was had an 0 for 15 stretch, which was by far the longest stretch of the season, but did get a run and did get a single, a nicely hit ball that he very much needed, and was rung up in a very tough spot that got Bruce Bochy all hot and bothered. He was struck out twice, including a couple of really questionable pitches in a situation where we had runners on first and second with no outs. And Bruce Bochy remembered that, and when his pitcher, Andrew Heaney, did not get the benefit of the doubt on what was honestly a questionable call, probably the correct call for ball 4 in a full count that could have been a strikeout and could have helped him get out of this, and Andrew Heaney in that 7th inning. Bruce Bochy knew it was time. It didn't look like whatever he did was demonstrative at first, but it was enough to get him thrown out, and then he comes and gets his money's worth, which, like Josh Jung said in the postgame interview, it lit a fire under their butts. This team needed that fire under their butts, because in the bottom of the 7th inning, it was a tie game, and the Rangers scored 2 runs, 2 crucial runs, including a bases-loaded walk by Jonah Heim. Just exceptional at-bat after exceptional at-bat by this entire team, working counts, taking walks, taking what they will give you and passing the baton on to the next guy and trusting that he is going to get the job done. That is what this offense did so well when it's clicking. That's what it did well in Toronto. That's what it did well early in the season, in the middle of the season. When this lineup is clicking, it is because there are so many guys in there that have absolute trust in each other to get the job done every single time. And that is incredibly huge, and that is what is going to help carry this team. If they do make it to the playoffs, if they do some damage, that is going to be the reason why they do it. Coming up, we're going to look at the start by Nathan Eovaldi and this bullpen holding up, as well as Wyatt Langford's incredible AAA debut. But first, this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Sleeper. The MLB playoffs are around the corner, which means the clock is ticking on a chance to win 100 times your money, your cash on daily fantasy baseball. Baseball has never been more exciting than it is now, with studs like, Adolis Garcia, Josh Jung, Corey Seager, Marcus Semien. Pick more or less on stats for these stars like home runs, hits, strikeouts, and more for up to a 100 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right and you could win big. Are you betting on a big start by Jon Gray tomorrow against the Red Sox? Well, the Rangers sure need it. And if you are thinking about doing that, then use promo code LOCKEDON and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit on Sleeper. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Shout out to the Rangers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, we'll be breaking down the final game of this series with Boston. The Rangers take on the Red Sox this week. You can catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, the Rangers had Nathan Eovaldi back on the hill today, and while he didn't have his best stuff, he did battle. And by not having his best stuff, I mean he really did not have his best stuff in this one. His fastball was averaging 93.6 miles an hour. Yet again, the velocity is still way down from the season average of 95.3 miles an hour. That's 1.7 mile an hour lower on the average fastball. The cutter was down 1.5 miles an hour. Slider was down 1.5 miles an hour. Curveball and splitter were both down 1 mile an hour each. I mean, the fastest fastball he threw was 95.5 miles an hour, and his yearly average is 95.3. I mean, this is exactly what happened with him last year in Boston. Whenever he came back from injury, he just was not the same. The velocity was not the same, and he was able to work around some walks, but he only had 3 strikeouts in this one. Also had 3 walks. Also hit a batter. Like, just not the cleanest for him. Like, just not super great for him. And it's starting to make me concerned because the Rangers need the best version of Nathan Eovaldi, not the mediocre version. But I will give him credit. This is a tough lineup. This is a lineup full of dudes that battle, and I was bashing it on yesterday's show, but honestly, it is a pretty decent and fairly deep lineup with some pretty good hitters all the way up and down it. And he only had 1 inning that really got away from him. It was the 3rd inning, and again, if not for that double play that could have been turned, maybe, or at least a little bit better, but he kind of got himself into that situation with the walks, which is, again, not a thing we saw a lot with Eovaldi when he was at his best. But the Rangers, thankfully, Jordan Montgomery is going incredibly well. The Rangers just really desperately need Jon Gray to pull out of the tailspin that he's been in the last few starts. But with Jon Gray, he's such a mystery box that you really never know if it's going to be a great start or a bad start. Like, it's just, he is kind of mid. Like, I don't mean that as a pejorative. I mean that as a, like, his highs are so high, his lows are so low that they kind of equal out to about mediocre, which the Rangers could use a 4, 5, maybe 6 game hot streak from Jon Gray, because he's got 3 starts left in the regular season. We'll see how many he gets in the postseason. And the Rangers just need Eovaldi to be his fully healthy self. He threw 80-something pitches in this one, 82 pitches, 48 of them for strikes. That is not the Nathan Eovaldi that the Rangers saw in the first half. That is not the Nathan Eovaldi that was a Cy Young, if not like contender, favorite for basically the first half of the season. And the Rangers are in trouble. They don't have any top tier A1 game 1 starters. If Nathan Eovaldi is this, he is not going to be able to, give you the kind of postseason performances that the Rangers are hoping for from him. You don't have Max Scherzer. You don't have Jacob deGrom. You don't really know what you're getting from Jon Gray. Andrew Heaney's not in the rotation anymore. Martin Perez is not in the rotation anymore. Dane Dunning is capable of some decent starts, and I think he's going to get some postseason starts. But, I mean, right now, the elite members of your rotation are kind of just Jordan Montgomery, and that is a spooky, scary place to be in. And that is not what the Rangers are wanting. I mean, I don't know if Eovaldi is going to find his velocity magically at the end of this year. I don't. He can pitch through it, and he can kind of work around some stuff. But, I mean, if you're not striking guys out and you're walking guys and you're giving up hard contact, then that is not a recipe for success in the playoffs. And the Rangers need their combination for wins. Their routine was have good starting pitching, have really good lineup, and survive with the bullpen. And you can't really survive with the bullpen with how bad it's been. And you need 2 of those 3 components to be very, very good. And even then, it still might not be enough to go deep into October. Now, this is the first year. This will be the Rangers just breaking out of that playoff drought, which hopefully they can do. I mean, the AL West is still very winnable with how mediocre the Astros and the Rangers and the Mariners have all been over the last 3 weeks. Like, it has been a real mid-off in the AL West. But the Rangers desperately need a better version of Eovaldi than they got tonight. It is clutch, and I'm not demeaning him for saying this is a bad performance. It's not a great one, but given the context, he gave the Rangers, he did enough to win. But when he is your number 1 starter, and he is the guy that you were hoping for, Goodness, lightning almost just crashed down on me and took me out. So hopefully it doesn't kill my recording or kill my power. But we're still alive and not on fire, so I think we're doing okay. But anyway, I think that was the Lord agreeing with me that the Rangers need Nathan Eovaldi to be struck by lightning in his arm and recover that velocity that he had early on in the season, because that is such a huge key for him. Whenever he has got the velocity, it sets up everything so much better. Like, it really just makes an entire world of difference for how deep he can pitch in these games. And again, the Rangers got their offense. I know people have been complaining about the offense being inconsistent. Well, they're just not going to score 10 runs every night. They're doing an offense like this, where you score 6 runs, your starting pitcher goes 5 and gives up 3 earned runs. That's acceptable. But it's especially acceptable when you have a bullpen that is as much maligned as ever. And if you didn't listen to yesterday's show, I really gave them a good what for. Probably the most vicious rant I think I've ever gone on this show in the 923 episodes now of this Rangers podcast. I've really gave it to this bullpen, and maybe they listen, because they sure as shoot turned it around in a fantastic performance. We're going to talk about what they did well and a phenomenal debut from Wyatt Langford in AAA. But first, this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Modern medical care and treatment are important, but our global supply chains are fragile. Things like pandemics, natural disasters, and foreign travel may cut you off from the treatment that you need. Jase Medical is your solution. Just fill out their online form, and one of Jase Medical's board-certified physicians will review it to determine whether medications are safe and appropriate. Then, Jase will send you your prescriptions to one of their partner pharmacies, where your order will be filled and mailed directly to your home. You can also send your physician a message for answers to treatment-related questions at any time. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jase Medical offers the Jase case. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Shout out to the everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On Friday, she'll be talking about this week on the farm and looking ahead at this massive weekend series against Seattle. The Rangers take on the Red Sox this week and catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, I've completely buried the lead because the bullpen went 4 innings, did not allow a single earned run. Not a single earned run, just 1 unearned run. And not only that, but they only allowed 1 hit and 1 walk, and the other base runner reached on an error. And outside of that, this bullpen was perfect. Now, just let that sink in after yesterday's incredible ranting and raving, and the entirety of this season, the insane, overwhelming, just ungodly, unbelievable amount of blown saves. Like, mathematically, they have to get one every once in a while. And that they did in this one. They stepped up big in a big moment, let this team get back into it. And even when their defense let them down with that Corey Seager error, and some umpiring let them down with not a great outing from Heaney, but could have been better. He allowed the double. That was bad. That was not great. He also walked 1. He also allowed an error, which not really his fault, but he also struck out 1. But, the rest of this bullpen finally doing their job. And for all the crap that I've given Aroldis Chapman, this was an exceptional performance. The Rangers hadn't pitched him in a long time, and he had a ERA around 8 in his last 7 appearances before this one. And a lot of them had come in non-safe situations because the Rangers just hadn't had a lot of leads lately. Or if they've had leads, they haven't been close leads. Like all of those wins in Toronto, thankfully for my health, they were not close wins. They were just big blowouts where the Rangers didn't have to throw their best relievers and have them in high leverage situations. But credit to Aroldis Chapman. He came through in a big way in this one. An inning and 2/3, 3 strikeouts. Just looked very, very good. This is the guy you traded for. The Rangers knew that their bullpen was crap. They knew it was bad all year long. And they made trades for 2 relievers. One of them was Chris Stratton, who's been just up and down and just okay. He's a mid reliever. He's not a setup man. He's not the guy that you're wanting to throw in the 8th inning where you're in a huge leverage situation. But he has become that because the rest of the Rangers' pen has been so problematic. And you traded Cole Reagans, who might win a Cy Young, for Aroldis Chapman for 1 season. And there have been a lot of ups and downs, but if you're going to have him, you might as well use him. You already bring in whatever, off the field issues that he has and, that people might have issues with, and whatever clubhouse issues that he had of just basically quitting on the Yankees last year and being left off the postseason roster. Like, you already brought that in, so you might as well freaking use him. If you're going to have a guy who throws 100 billion miles an hour and gets 1 million strikeouts per 9 innings, then just go ahead and freaking use him in the leverage situations. And that they did, and they needed him for an inning 2/3. He doesn't throw multiple innings a lot of times, very often at all. The Rangers actually said they were going to stop doing that for him. But since he'd only pitched, 3 times in the last, 10 days or whatever it was at this point. I mean, he pitched on the 12th in Toronto and on the 9th versus Oakland. And before that, I think it was the 6th was the last time he was used. So he's had a lot of time off to be rested. And the Rangers need him down the stretch. They need him in a lot of games. They're going to need him in these close games because there's not a whole lot of leverage levers. And you know what? One leverage lever they did have, who was absolutely incredible, was Jose freaking Leclerc. Comes in, gets a perfect 9th inning. No drama, no walks, no base runners at all. Just strikeouts, just soft contact, and just so stress-free, which is not very Jose Leclerc-like. And I think he gets a little bit more shtick than he should. Honestly, Leclerc, he came in as the Rangers closer, and he's got a decent stats on the year. Honestly, they were fine. Heading into this one, he had pitched in 51 games, 50 in the 3rd innings, 57 strikeouts, 27 walks, so just under 5 per 9, 10 Ks per 9. That's honestly really good, and a 3.04 ERA. And now I believe it is down to, 2.98. So a sub-3 ERA. But when Jose Leclerc is bad, it is incredibly mind-numbing and frustrating to watch because he is not in the strike zone. It's the same thing with Aroldis Chapman. When Aroldis Chapman is bad, well, Chapman's giving up more home runs than Jose Leclerc is. There are a lot more just absolutely monster shots because when you're throwing 101, it's a lot easier to turn around and take it out when the fastball is doing generating a lot of that power for you. But this was just an incredible outing for him. He averages 95 miles an hour on his 4-seamer on the year. But tonight, it was up to 96.9 miles an hour. Nice. Up 1.9 miles an hour average velocity on that 4-seamer. He only threw it 3 times, but he was bringing the freaking gas in this one. And the slider was also way up. He only needed 9 pitches to get through that inning of work. 9 pitches, 1 strikeout, a save. A rare save for this bullpen, just his 3rd in this one. But the slider was up 1.9 miles an hour on average as well. Changeup up 0.4 miles an hour. He literally only threw it once. But, man, this looked like a guy that was just supremely jazzed up for the 9th inning. He said it in that game. I believe it was I can't remember exactly where it was, but I think it might have been Toronto. Wherever it was when he came in and got, I believe, what was his most recent save. I know it was against the Mets, where he said, I didn't think I was coming in the 9th inning. I thought that I was coming in in the 8th inning. But they put me in there, and he did well, and he converted the save, and he said, yeah, I want to do that more often. A lot of people took that to mean, he doesn't want it. No, he wants it. He was just confused by it. He didn't know what his role was, which it's hard to blame him because I don't think anybody knows what their role is in this bullpen. It's just like, dear God, somebody do something good. Please, somebody do something good. And I really like the creativity to use Andrew Heaney in that late inning role, in that late inning high leverage role. And if it had worked out and he had gotten a scoreless inning and hadn't been pulled early, I also like the move to pull him early and put in Aroldis Chapman, because when you got guys on 2nd and 3rd and 1 out and you need a strikeout badly, you need Aroldis Chapman in there. That is what you got him for, and that is exactly what he delivered in that situation, which was just absolutely ginormous. But I think Jose Leclerc moving forward, we've talked about how Aroldis Chapman struggles as the actual closer in actual save situations. I think those are well-founded and warranted. Throwing him in like the 7th or 8th inning, whenever it's highest leverage and you need strikeouts in the worst way, I think putting him in there is a great move. Now, Leclerc, I think he thrives much more when he's given his own clean inning. So I think him being the actual closer, coming in the 9th inning in a save situation, I think that might be his best role. Because again, we've talked about how so many other guys in this bullpen are just shattered, just absolutely shattered confidence-wise. And I don't think Jose Leclerc is. And I think that part of the reason also why Rangers fans give him so much shtick and are so frustrated with him is because when he first came up back in 2016 and even in 2018, he was really just absolutely incredible. It was his first year in the big leagues as a 22-year-old. He pitched in 12 games in 2016. He had a 1.80 ERA, 15 innings, 15 strikeouts. Did have 13 walks in there. But in 2018, that's when he really took it to a whole nother level. 57 2/3 innings, 12 saves for him in that 2018 season as a 24-year-old. He also had 85 strikeouts, 13.3 Ks per 9, and just 3.4 walks per 9 with a 1.56 ERA. That's when the Rangers gave him this deal that he has. And he looked fantastic. Even last year, when people were bemoaning him in a big way after coming off of, I believe it was Tommy John surgery, because he only pitched 2 games in 2020 and didn't pitch in 2021. I can't remember exactly what the injury was, but I'm pretty sure it was Tommy John surgery for him and for Jonathan Hernandez. Hernandez's command just never came back, and Leclerc's has also been shaky this year. He's got 4.8 walks per 9, which is somehow below his career average of 5.2, but he's always going to strike guys out. He is always going to induce that weak contact. He has got very good stuff. And I think that putting him in that closer role, it's not ideal. And there are going to be some wild rides. He's going to walk some guys. He's going to allow some contact, and he might blow some saves. But I think that right now he is your best option as a closer because, again, the options are pretty freaking slim at this moment. I don't think you can keep running Will Smith out there with his 4.5 ERA. I don't think that's getting better. I don't think Brock Burke is getting better in high leverage situations. I don't think Jonathan Hernandez is going to stop walking everybody, unfortunately. But I think that this is the move going forward. It's not going to be perfect. It's definitely not going to be perfect. Nothing about this bullpen is, and you still got to get to Leclerc in that save situation. You got to have other guys come through, which, again, Chris Stratton did with his perfect inning in the 6th. And for the most part, this bullpen did its work. And I think Heaney in more of those situations could be the move. But I think, and I'm saying this, and I feel the just shudders that I feel, but I think Jose Leclerc needs to be your closer moving forward. I kind of trust him. I trust him more than what else is out there, which isn't saying a whole lot. But hey, he did the job. This bullpen did the job tonight, got the win when they desperately needed it. Houston is an absolute tailspin right now. The Mariners are about to close out the A's unless they score 6 runs in the bottom of the 9th inning or 5 to keep it alive. I don't really see that happening. But still, this is a good win. The Rangers need it. They're going to need a great performance from Jon Gray tomorrow. And in the future, they're going to need some great performances from Wyatt Langford, who at this point might just be called up freaking tomorrow because his AAA debut was absolutely fantastic. He took 6 swings. 5 of those were put into play, or were balls put into play. I believe one of them was fouled off. Maybe he had, he fouled one off. So he had literally 0 swings and misses. Just absolutely incredible. 4 for 5 with a double and 4 singles, including one single that was hit 106.4 miles an hour and a double that was hit 111.5 miles an hour. His first game at AAA, just absolutely no big whoop. Like, what the heck? The Raiders got so incredibly lucky having Wyatt Langford fall to them at the number 4 pick. Like, he was very clearly one of the top 3 guys in this draft, and it looked like he might be the best freaking one in this draft, and it might not be particularly close. We'll see how those high school kids end up being and how good Paul Skeens ends up being, but, like, I mean, my goodness. And I've been saying over and over again that, like, no, you can't call up Wyatt Langford. That is so reactionary. He is 21 years old, doesn't turn 22 until November, and he's had, like, fewer than 50 professional baseball games that he's played. But he just keeps hitting. He just keeps showing command of the strike zone. He just keeps showing that he is a completely complete hitter, and no level of professional pitching has shaken his confidence in himself. Like, he just might be the Rangers' game one left fielder, like, in the playoffs this year. Like, that's the kind of insane level he's on. And I have been saying for so long that, no, you cannot be the Angels in this. You cannot call up your guy way too early and, screw him up. We saw what the Rangers did to a couple of minor league players when they called him up way too early in 2020. But that's with normal players. Wyatt Langford doesn't appear to be a normal prospect. Like, putting on this kind of insane showing, you just don't really almost ever see it. Like, he might be the top prospect in baseball right freaking now. Like, he might be ahead of Jackson Holliday, the teenage shortstop phenom for the Orioles, who's 19 and in AAA and got drafted a little over a year ago. Like, that's kind of bonkers. But Wyatt Langford might be better. He might be better than, whoever the Rangers are trotting out there in left field right now in Evan Carter. Like, he's definitely got a lot more power. I don't think he provides nearly as much defensive value. I haven't seen his defensive roots very much. But like, these at-bats, I mean, if you could put that bat in your lineup, you might just be back to old-fashioned Rangers baseball of outslug everybody, just pretend like it's 2001 again, and this lineup is absolutely insane. I mean, who knows? I am so excited for that kid's future. What a freaking debut. What a win for the Texas Rangers, and incredibly needed in the worst possible way. But still, have yourself a day, Wyatt Langford. Have yourself a day, Texas Rangers bullpen. Have yourself a day, Adolis, Garcia, Josh Jung, Jonah Heim. What a freaking day. What a win. And what a way for Bruce Bochy to come up and stick up for his players and them to immediately have his back. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy Playoff Chase Texas Rangers baseball.